So this talk is, did time run slower in the past? And it's supposed to be the latest discoveries from astronomy. So now it's difficult to deal with all the mistakes made in physics in the past and to keep check with those new mistakes being made. Anyway, let's look at the latest physics discoveries, in this case astronomy physics. This is the article that I'll be talking about. It's called "Did Time Run Slower in the Early Universe?" The article is by this person, and the article concludes that time doesn't go slow in the past. Anyway, going through the article, the article says a new study has been making waves, examining 190 quasars to show that a periodic ticking appears slower to us the longer ago the quasar light was emitted. In a sensationalistic and quite incorrect fashion, many outlets have been reporting that this means that time ran slower in the early universe, which isn't right. So this article is being skeptical or debunking the other articles that are coming out about this latest study. Instead, as the universe expands, signals passing through it experience time dilation, a consequence of general relativity. We've seen this effect many times before, now learn what it means. So the article says, no matter where or when you're located in space-time, you always experience the same laws of physics. The fundamental constants remain constant across space and time, and so do our notions of mass, distance, and duration. Rulers or any measuring stick made of atoms will always have the same length, and clocks or any device made to measure time will always show that it passes at the same universal rate for all observers, 1 second per second. There are never any exceptions to that, neither according to the laws of quantum theory nor according to Einstein's general theory of relativity. That's assumptions that most modern physics is based on theorizing, but I think you can really say, well, that's arguable. But anyway, going on with the article from that sort of belief. The article says, but if you've been paying attention to the news, that might not be what you've been reading as of late. A news release from July the 3rd, 2023, a release that's gotten quite a bit of traction, claims that the universe was 5 times slower soon after Big Bang. Many have written in to inquire about this, including Howard and Elsie, and those two people are asking, since we just discovered that time flowed more slowly in the early universe, that's what one of them says, and Alice, with the recent discovery of, and it's implied, of slow distant quasar ticking, might it be timely to do an article on time dilation? And I think the only option is to separate fact from fiction. Let's unpack what's really going on with clocks, time, and the expanding universe. And what I say is, I've already dealt with them in my videos how mainstream has messed up the time concept. They're based upon that faulty thinking. They will continue. Article says, time in the universe. One of the greatest advances in our understanding of physics came when Einstein put forth relativity, the notion that quantities like time and space are not absolute in any sense, but rather are specific to each and every observer, dependent on where and when you are, as well as how you are moving. You may have a different perception of how far apart two objects are, distance, or how long it takes time for two different signals to arrive, unlike the Newtonian idea where space was like a Cartesian grid and time was an absolute. Einstein's work showed us that each observer has a unique experience of what space and time are. So, comment is saying time not being absolute. That's where they start messing up. Then they falsely represent Newton as only being absolute time when he had both absolute and relative time. So from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, it points out Newton's views on space-time and motion, and from Newton's point of view there is absolute time and there is relative time, and the same applies for space. There's absolute space and there's relative space. Now in my video, Whig History of Physics, I pointed out that most physicists represent a Whig history of physics, i.e. they present a false history of their subject. And physicist Weinberg thought that was a good thing. But as part of that false representation of history, they also present a false representation of theories, such as a false representation of Newton's theory. Or even they're saying that Newton's theory deals only with absolute time, they are falsely representing it. So when they present their supposedly new discoveries, they start explaining it from false, bogus ideas, i.e. they have a Whig history, and that leads them then to make a Whig physics, i.e. bogus history and bogus physics. They don't even represent Newton properly. So what that amounts to is moving goalposts, and I've pointed out moving goalposts in quite a few of my videos up to now. And moving goalposts means you are changing things. In the case of Newton, Newton has absolute time and relative time, but they don't want to deal with that, and they move the goalposts, or you may change these and represent Newton as only having absolute time. Similar thing happens with space. As for Einstein only having relative time, I point that in other videos. That is a mistake to have that. So in the context of that mess, they are supposed to have made a new discovery. The person who wrote the article, Ethan, eventually says, that's it. It's time dilation, that stretching out the signals from distant quasars, nothing more. But time itself always passes at the same rate from an observer anywhere in the universe. Then, now and forevermore. So it's not supposed to be time slower in the past, ? So what they're doing is making a mess and carrying on regardless. And this is a carry-on film called Carry On Regardless, where you don't care that you're making a mess and you're just carrying on with it. Thank you, that's the end of this little short video.